Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us. Today I have some interesting information for you on E2 visas. And in particular, I'm going to be talking about some statistics, some stats that were published by the State Department, the U.S. State Department, on E2 visas. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Saul Verdin. I am the founding and managing attorney at Verdin Law Firm. Verdin Law Firm is a boutique immigration law firm located in Dallas, and we serve clients throughout the country, and we have clients throughout the world that are seeking visas to enter the U.S. All right, let's get to it. So the topic today is focused around E2 visa stats, in particular for Canadians and Mexican investors that want to enter the U.S. And why Canadian and Mexicans today? Well, the reason is because traditionally those are one of the two most prolific users of the E2 visa. Probably because it's both of their proximity to the U.S. on the northern side, and in the southern border, we have those two countries wanting to do business in the U.S. So we have some key numbers for 2022. We see that for 2022, about a little bit over 4,000 E2 visas were issued for Canadians. And for Mexican investors, a little bit over 2,000 E2 visas were issued. So right now we have, as you can see, the numbers are a little higher for Canadians than for Mexicans this year, but they go back and forth. Sometimes, for example, in 2021, more Mexicans received the E2 than Canadians. But what's interesting is really comparing the numbers for each respective country. So for Canada, for example, from 2021 to 2022, there's almost a doubling of the number of visas issued. So we saw a little bit over 2,000 issued in Canada in 2021 and over 4,000 in 2022. So obviously there's a shift in the trend there for Canada, and more Canadian investors are coming in. Why is that? From my observation, I see a lot of Canadian investors fleeing some of the increased government regulation. In Canada, we're seeing a little bit more regulation that is kind of intruding into investors' businesses and lives, and they're seeking alternatives to the South United States. So one way to come in is to the E2 visa. And for Mexico, we actually saw a reduction by about a third in the number of visas issued from 2021 to 2022. These are interesting stats. I mean, and again, they fluctuate from year to year. But again, these are good numbers, and they're healthy numbers for those individuals wanting to enter the U.S. Now, it's good to talk briefly about the approval rates. Right now, worldwide, we're seeing a little bit over 90%. In 2021, the approval rate for E2 visa applicants was about 93%. That's pretty good compared to other visa categories. We don't have the exact number for 2022, but that number will be coming out shortly, and I'll be happy to share that with our audience. But again, for planning purposes, you can kind of see that it has a high approval rate. Now, lastly, I want to leave you with this, in that the consulates throughout the world, they vary in their approval rates and in their custom in their familiarity with this type of visa category. Some consulates, even though they allow E2 visas, they're not as familiar as other consulates in processing these visa categories. So sometimes we see a varying treatment of these visa applications in countries or consulates that are not used to processing high numbers, such as in Canada or in Mexico. Certain countries, we see very few visa applications per year for the E2 visa. So it's something to consider. You have to probably do extra due diligence in making a clear presentation to the consulate that is not as familiar with E2 visa category. Anyway, I hope you find this information helpful. I always find it interesting about the stats that are coming out by the consulates, and hopefully you use it in your planning process. Again, this is general information for our audience. If you have questions about your particular case, I encourage you to contact an attorney. Good day.